So Steph said she wanted me to talk a little bit about how I got to the place where I'm at. Like Steph said, I'm one of 14 children, so I grew up in Langhorne. And yeah, Ellen, Ann, Bobby, Jimmy, Carole, Peggy, Ruru, France, Karen, Teresa, Michael, Billy, Dennis, and John. Yeah. So when you graduated high school, bye-bye, see you later, what are you going to do? You know, time for you to go off. And so I did. I had my bags packed, though. I was ready to go. I was very ready to go. And I had met my husband when we were 16 years old. And we dated for a couple, you know, maybe a year or so. And then he started getting into things that I didn't particularly want to get into in the, you know, late 60s, early 70s. And so we split up, mutual terms, and I saw him later, like a year and a half later, at the Neshaminy Mall. And he had cut his hair. His hair previously was down to here. And he was into all kinds of things, like I told you. And he had stopped doing all drugs. He had stopped drinking. He'd stopped doing all drugs. His hair was shorter. I said, now I'm interested. What is going on here? This sounds pretty good here. And he told me about meditation. He said he had started meditation, had learned under Maharishi, not Maharishi himself then. We were trained by Maharishi to become teachers of Transcendental Meditation, but he didn't learn directly under Maharishi the technique. And he said he's never felt better. And he was just so much easier in life. So I went, we started dating again, and I went down to Philadelphia at the time. It was down at 39th and Spruce. It's the only place you could go at University of Pennsylvania to learn the technique of TM. And I started, and I loved it too. And then Joe and I got married, and he went away to become a TM teacher. He went away for 3 months to La Antilla, Spain. And then his advanced courses after that was in Arosa. And then a year and a half, I went to my teacher training. I wasn't going to go to the teacher training course. I was just going to kind of help him shepherd in all the people that learn how to meditate and leave. But I watched everybody walk in our door stressed, tensed, and said, look at them walking out with smiles on their faces. And I'm sure Steph could attest to this, and Sherry, because both of them help us on instruction day. And they see people coming in and feeling bottled up for one reason or another. And sometimes people really don't even have a lot of stress. They just want to learn how to meditate because they want their lives to be better. So I went away to become a teacher of Transcendental Meditation. And that's when I knew that this was the real deal. That's when I knew, because that's when I met Maharishi. Now, I was raised in a very strict Catholic family, very strict, obviously 14 kids. And there was always something in the back of my mind that said, but what if this is like interfering a little bit with my devotion to God, my religion? I don't really want anything to get in the way of that. And that's when I met Maharishi, and I said, no, this is the real deal. He's truly somebody that lives the life that people want to know about. He was so humble, he was so serene, he was so loving, giving, that you fell in love with him right away. It was amazing. He took the vows of a monk, so he never owned anything. Nothing was ever put in his name. He had just a dhoti and a pair of slippers and one cashmere. And that was it. And Maharishi would just lecture for hours and hours and hours about meditation. Joe and I, because we were younger, we couldn't sit that long. We would feel very antsy, so we'd get up and go take a walk. Okay, let's go have something to eat. They'd go out and get a glass of water. And Maharishi would be sitting there in a full lotus position, talking without any, no drinks, nothing to eat, for 8 hours, 6 to 8 hours. Never saw anything like it. And I said, this is really quite unique. And he always put the world first, world peace. And he said, the reason you meditate is because you want world peace. That's why you meditate. Because by quieting your mind every day on a very, very subtle level. And now it's even proven in science, in quantum physics, that every thought, every action, every word affects everyone else in creation. And what you do in TM is you allow the mind to quiet down and experience thoughts at quieter and quieter and quieter levels of thinking. Okay, so let's start. So this is Maharishi. He's the person that taught both Joe and I. He came to the United States in the 1950s. And next slide is Gurudev. Gurudev is Swami Brahmananda, Saraswati, Shankaracharya, the Jyotirmoth. You don't have to know how to say that to be able to practice transcendental meditation. But the reason that I show Maharishi's picture and Gurudev's picture is this isn't a technique that somebody from Harvard or Yale decided to make up and say, oh, let me just make up some kind of new meditation for everybody. This is thousands of years old. And it's been this way. It's been taught the same technique for thousands of years, over and over. Always one-on-one, never in large groups. The very first day of instruction, you always get one-on-one instruction. Okay, and then I'm going to skip through the bubble diagrams just because it gets a little bit lengthy. And Steph said, let's try not to go too much over a half hour. So this one here? Yep. Okay, great. Actually, Steph, is there one? Oh, no, there isn't one on this one. That's on my other PowerPoint. We had trouble with our computers. We had to change. So let me, before I even begin talking about the science behind meditation and everything, let me talk a little bit about what transcendental meditation is not. Because sometimes people hear transcendental meditation. It has like a little bit of a weird connotation to it. TM is not a religion. It in no way conflicts with anyone's religion. It's not a belief. You don't have to believe a single thing I say for it to work. It's not a philosophy. It's not a way of life. You don't have to sit in an austere position. You don't have to sit with your legs crossed. You don't have to change your diet to learn TM. What it is a very simple, natural, easy mental technique. It's practiced twice a day, every day, with your eyes closed. And by doing this, you allow your mind to settle down to quieter levels of thinking, and simultaneously, your body achieves a very deep state of rest. Now, sometimes people say right from the beginning, well, why can't I just sit and close my eyes? Why do I have to learn a technique? Why do I need to have an actual meditation practice? Well, the reason for that is because when you do just close your eyes, the placebo, you do get some relaxation. If you did this twice a day, you would get some relaxation. But it's twice as much when you do transcendental meditation. The technique that you use, you get absolutely at least twice as much as just closing your eyes. And this is validated. We have over 650 studies that has been done on the technique of transcendental meditation, proving that the technique works. Here's the trick. You got to give yourself the time. You've got to give yourself the permission. You've got to get yourself to that point before you even walk into our door and say, I'm going to change my life. This is what I'm going to do. I'd like to have a better life. I'd like to have a more fulfilling life. I'd like to have a less stressful life. And I'd like to go to a peaceful state twice a day, every day. So other forms of meditation and relaxation, some relaxation, some decrease of oxygen consumption, some of this happens, some reduce of anxiety, but not like with TM. Progressive muscle relaxation, that's a form of meditation where you start at the top of your head and you relax my eyes, relax my nose, relax my mouth. It works if you give it a little bit of time. TM is more effective. Biofeedback, mantra meditation, sometimes using a concentration type of meditation. Here is concentration right here. It actually isn't very restful at all. And if you think of it, you're usually focusing 6, 8, 10 hours a day in work. When you come home, often people say the last thing in the world I want to do is sit down and do some kind of meditation where I'm focusing, I'm trying to keep my brain on one particular thing. So in TM, we use no concentration, no focus, none whatsoever. We give the mind a direction to just dive within and go to a quieter level of thinking. It's kind of like when you dive into a pool, when you know the proper angle, the mind just takes it. And I'm not trying to say that, stand up here and say that after you learn the technique of TM, you're going to have these completely blissful 20-minute periods of meditation twice a day, every day. That's not what it is. TM is a practice. It's a practice, okay? But the more you do it, the more the brain, the mind, wants to go to that quieter level of thinking. It gets used to that quietness. It gets used to that peacefulness. So it goes there quicker. Okay, Steph, go ahead. The American Heart Association did a lot of research in 2013. They said, okay, we need to find out what modalities really work, what helps and what doesn't help. And what they found was transcendental meditation was the only form of meditation and self-development that they found made a significant decrease in blood pressure. When people have high blood pressure, even low blood pressure, it tends to normalize out. Steph, on our last course, Steph had shepherded a doctor from Lehigh Valley Hospital. She's an emergency medicine doctor. So she goes around when you come into emergency room, and she's the person that makes sure that you're getting the right medicine, the right amount of medicine, and checks everything over. She's on 4 blood pressure medicines because of COVID. The stress levels in the hospitals are off the charts. And it's why we really feel so passionate about going into hospitals now and helping the nurses. Oh my God, they are the angels of the world, honestly. I mean, I thought they were angels before I started teaching in hospitals. Now I know for sure they are angels of the world because they face this every single day. And the stress that they're under is unfathomable. And this poor doctor said, I just couldn't get my blood pressure. And she says, my cardiologist would come in and I could feel my heart racing, just seeing her walking into the room. And she was on a Zoom follow-up call that we have once a month after you take the course on TM. And she said, Carole, my blood pressure in 2 weeks went down. This is unbelievable that this is happening. And she says, we really need to sit down and talk. So this is actually our claim to fame. Lowering blood pressure, because it works. If you give yourself that time, that permission, your blood pressure is going to normalize out. Okay, let's go down to this. Lots of brain research on TM. Lots and lots of brain research. I'm wondering if we shouldn't even play this real quick. I think this is a video, Steph. Yep. Yeah, let's play this real quick. If you can, if it will work. I think you have to, oh, it won't.
Sound.
It won't take. Okay. Okay, then we won't. Okay. That won't work. Okay. So usually we have a TV. So for some reason we can't get this to work, but there's so many studies that have been done with brain research. The prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that is responsible for good decision making, okay? That part of the brain lights up in transcendental meditation. In fact, the whole brain lights up. The right and the left hemispheres, usually in wake and dream and sleeping states of consciousness, your right and left hemisphere has gone all over the place because your mind is so active. In transcendental meditation, when you sit down and start the practice of the technique, the right and left hemispheres become coherent. They become orderly. They become very organized in meditation. Neurons begin to connect, okay? the entire brain lights up. So we know the amygdala is the part of the brain that's responsible for fight or flight. Should I fight this situation or should I run? Okay, if a lion's running into the room, you know, we're all going to pick up out of here. We're going to run out that back door. We know we can't fight it. It's not possible. However, and Sisters U knows this. Sisters U, you stick together because you know this. There's times when you need to stand up and fight for what you feel is right. There's times when we need to get that strength, that inner strength from inside, and actually do something about a situation. But that doesn't just happen trying to make your brain think it. It has to come from a really deep side, inside yourself. Strengthening that inner self, that amygdala. Children, we do children's courses every year. We do one a year. We're having one in August. Sometimes they come in, they're eating the insides of their mouth. They're so stressed, especially now with COVID. They don't know how to assimilate this information. It scares them half to death. They're pulling their hair out, okay? They have ulcers. They're young kids and they have ulcers. This is a way to show a child how to deal with tension, how to deal with stress. Is it going to eliminate all their stress or all of your stress? I wish I could say that. It's not. You're going to still have stress. You're just going to be able to deal with it a little bit better. Okay? It doesn't change your genetics. Wish it did. I wish it did. It doesn't. It doesn't change your hair color. It doesn't change your personality. You still are going to be who you are. It's just you're going to be able to deal with life a little bit better. So the David Lynch Foundation, David Lynch is a movie producer. Maybe some of you know who he is. He did Twin Peaks and Elephant Man. But he started meditating and he was having tons of anxiety, high blood pressure, on all kinds of medication. And started TM, and like in a couple years, he went off everything. Little by little. We're never saying that you can do this on your own. You have to work with your doctor. Make sure you work with your doctor because you really have to go off medications with a grain of salt. You really do. Once the brain knows it's there, it needs to come off of it quietly, very, very gradually with your doctor, in addition to your doctor. But David Lynch got himself off of his medication. He said, why don't more people know about this? We need to talk about how to get it out to the masses. And so he started a foundation so that we could help lots of people, not just people that could afford the course fee, but everybody. And actually, Joe and I, a portion of the course fee always comes back to the TM teacher. Most of the TM teachers that teach today teach full time, so that's their income. That's how they put food on the table. That's how they clothe their children. That's how they pay for their kids' education. That's what they do. So a portion of your course fee comes back to the TM teacher. Joe and I put it into a scholarship fund. It's a scholarship/expense account. Any expenses that we incur too, we have to pay out of this account. But we put it in because 100% of our fee, because we know this works. We know it works. And we're both 70. You know, we want something to leave behind. We want everybody to know that there is something to get through all this craziness that's happening in the world. And so that's why we do it. We love it. All right, let's talk about the course. I won't go into how it's different from other forms of meditation. You can go on tm.org, and there's two videos, one by Bob Roth, and he talks a little bit about how it's different from other forms of meditation and self-development. And there's also another video by Dr. Tony Nader, who is now our international leader. Marcy has since passed away. And this Dr. Tony Nader is now our international person that keeps everything together. So he talks a little bit about TM too. So I don't want to start that because that could open a can of worms, and it's a lot of information. So I don't want to overwhelm everybody. But let's go down to if you did decide to take the course so you would know what is expected. So the introductory lecture and the preparatory lecture. In the past, when Joe and I first started teaching TM back in the early 1970s, we used to give a 2-hour introductory lecture. People would come in to places that we would rent publicly, and then they'd have to go home, think about it, and come back to another 2-hour preparatory lecture before they could even start the technique of TM. And right before Marshy passed away, he said, that's a little bit much to be asking people now. They don't have that kind of time. Everybody's on a time constraint. So the introductory lectures are actually online. You can go on tm.org and view them. And the prep lecture it happens once a month. If you listen to the introductory lecture and you want to hear a preparatory lecture to get you started in the technique, then you could ask Steph, you could write to me, csmith@tm.org, and find out when we have the prep lectures online. They're on Zoom, okay? And then you have a third step, which is an interview. That's a form that you'd fill out. We send that to you by email. You fill out the form. And based on that form is how we select a mantra for you. Now, a mantra is a Sanskrit sound. It has no meaning, but its effects are known. Its effects are known. It has no sound. It has no meaning. It's a sound that has no meaning. If it had a meaning, you'd find yourself concentrating on the sound. Say you got a sound of car, okay? You'd start to think, car, and eventually your mind would go off to, I need gas for my car. I got to get that car fixed. I should trade in this car and get another car. All these associations would come up. So this sound that you're given in TM has no meaning whatsoever, okay? And it has a very soothing effect on the nervous system, on the mind, and on the body. If this were a blackboard and I were to run my fingernails down it, it would send the chill up your back. A mother singing a lullaby can put a baby right to sleep. Baby doesn't know what the mom's saying, but that soothing sound puts the baby to sleep. Ella Fitzgerald can hit such a high pitch, she can actually break glass, okay? So sound really has an effect on creation. Not too long ago, I was watching a documentary on TV about whales starting up in Vancouver, and their sound vibration being heard all the way down into the Baja, okay? And they would know where to meet their brothers, sisters, they would congregate and know this by the vibration of the sound through the waves of the water. So sound vibration really does have an effect on everybody. The sound that you're given in TM allows you to settle down and experience that quietness of the brain, experience a thought at quieter and quieter levels. And simultaneously, it allows you to get a very deep state of rest, much deeper than your deepest state of sleep. Even if you're not feeling like you're deep in meditation, guess what? Science research says it. And we know this because we know it. Joe and I personally, he went to India several years ago. And when he came back, he picked up a nasty bacteria. And we had to go to Doylestown Hospital. And he was sitting in the emergency room, and the nurses hooked him up to the machine and everything. And they said, do you need anything? He says, no. He says, would you mind if I just meditate? And they said, no, you'll be about a half hour before your doctor comes in anyway. So he sat down. And I am telling you, within the first 2 to 3 minutes, that machine started going off. And so all the nurses came in and said, Code Blue, is he okay? And he opens his eyes and he says, yeah, I'm okay. I mean, I don't feel good. I'd still like to see a doctor, but, I'm fine. So they said, oh, there must be something wrong with the machinery then. They fixed all the, connections and tried to make them tighter and everything. Oh, they're fine. So they go out and he leaves and he says, is it okay to meditate? I won't meditate if you think. And he says, no. Must have been something wrong with the machine. Start doing it again. 2 minutes. Bam, 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 bam. And so when they left, I said to him, babe, I said, did you get that deep that quickly? And he says, I didn't feel deep. I was just saying my mantra. I mean, it just happens. And that's what happens with TM. It's not like you're forcing it. It's not like you're controlling your brain. It's giving your mind the correct dive, and it goes there automatically. It goes there very easily. So the personal interview is done. We send you, Steph would probably be the person sending you a questionnaire. You'd fill that questionnaire out, and based upon what you put on that questionnaire, we select your mantra. So it's really important that you put all the correct, honest information on that form so that we can select the correct mantra for you. And then step 4. So 4, 5, 6, and 7 are all your days of instruction. Your first day is always done in person, one-on-one. Okay, TM, Transcendental Meditation, is never taught in a large group. I wouldn't be able to come in here and just teach you the first day in a large group. It's always done one-on-one. Everybody's different. Okay, so you would come to our farm. We have a farm in Carversville. It's right outside of Doylestown. We have a section that we designate for teaching TM. And in the past, people used to come these 4 days in a row to our farm, 4 days. But when COVID hit, we had to change everything. So now you have to learn that first day in person. You have to. There's no exception to that. So you come that first day, but the next 3 days, they've made it so that you can see your course on your iPhone, either an iPhone or an Android. So it's an interactive course. Say, hypothetically, you start on our next course, which is April 23rd. It's a Saturday. You would start on Saturday, one-on-one. Just get the basics of what TM is. You'll just have that first experience of quieting the mind. And then the next 3 days, you'll access your course over your iPhone or over your smartphone. Okay? And it's interactive, like I said. You would wake up and say, it would say, "Good morning, Steph. Did you get your meditation in today?" "Yes, I did." "Great." And then the next screen comes up. "Did you have this experience?" And she'd think, "No, I didn't have that." "Okay, then you would try this." So it's interactive with you. And it's 90 minutes of doing this on your smartphone. So usually what we say is, you start your TM in the morning first thing, and then you sit right down and you do your 90 minutes of your smartphone information. And then that way you get it done. Now, is that practical for everyone's lives? Unfortunately, it's not. We had a father of 5 kids take our course. He had to do 10 minutes here, 5 minutes here, 15 minutes here. It just wasn't possible for him to sit down 4 days in a row for 90 minutes. So you can do it. You can wake up, do your meditation, maybe do a half hour of your lesson, and then just go down, have breakfast, take a walk or whatever, come back, do another half hour. And then take a break from that, come back and do another half hour. As long as you get all 90 minutes in, we don't care. We don't care how it's done. But you have to commit to getting that done. Also, in the next 3 days, it's the 90 minutes over your TM app. We have a 30-minute Zoom call. And that's a group Zoom call. And that is so that everybody meditates together. We watch you. We make sure that you're doing okay. If there's any questions or answers, something maybe that Dr. Nader was talking about, and you say, I don't understand what he's saying there, then we answer those questions in that 30-minute Zoom call. Okay, so that's done. So it's the first day of instruction, one-on-one, no electronics, but the next 3 days is digital. 90 minutes over your smartphone, 30 minutes over your Zoom. Okay, go ahead, Steph. So the next course is April 23rd. We do that Saturday, 4:23 is when you have the one-on-one personal instruction, or Monday, 4:25. So the people that start on Saturday, your Zoom call would be at 6:30 every night. Okay, so Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. So you start on Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, you'd have a Zoom call for 30 minutes at 6:30. The people that start on Monday, on 4:25, your Zoom call would be at 11 a.m. So Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 11 a.m. you would begin your Zoom call. And then the June course, we skip May. June, because Steph's daughter's getting married in May. Did you all know that? Her daughter's getting married in May. We're taking the whole month off to celebrate. And the June course is June 4th and June 6th. All right, and the next one, requirements. There's 3 requirements. First is, and most important, is your time. You gotta take the time out to do this for yourself. You gotta finish the 4-day course as it's set up, and then just get it in your brain. I'm going to do this. I'm going to take this time out and do this. So that's the most important. The second is a fee. We are a nonprofit educational organization, which means that all the proceeds that come out go right back out into spreading the organization. We are 501c3, and that's a really hard status to get, to be that nonprofit. You probably know that because you're a nonprofit. And they come in and they audit your books, but you know, our organization stays afloat for over 50 some years now. So we've been, you know, very good with showing that the money goes right back out into spreading the organization. The fees are set at federal assistance. You ask your TM teacher, or you don't even have to be on federal assistance. You know, we're just getting over COVID. People have lost their jobs. They're in debt. That's why Joe and I put this money in the scholarship fund. We want as many people to start as possible. So if you feel like, I'd like to do it, but I just don't have the money, don't think that way. Just come to us and talk to us. We can work something out. As long as you can commit to the time, that's the most important thing. Commit to the time, and we'll have a third requirement too. The fee is not important. The fee really isn't. You should pay. If you can afford it, you should pay it, because it's the right thing to do. But if you can't afford it, then you just come to us and ask us. And then what we say is, if, and only if, you find yourself on your feet again somewhere down the road, 5 years down the road, 2 years down the road, consider paying it back. Consider paying it toward a friend, an aunt that maybe lost her husband and is suffering from grief, a nephew that is just getting over drugs and it doesn't know where to turn to. Pay for them, and it doesn't have to be in Doylestown. It can be anywhere. Help somebody else get on their feet and pay for them to start meditating. Okay, the next one. So nonprofit, and you pay once and it covers a lifetime of instruction. We don't call you and say, hey, it's time to start trucking it up again. You know, let's get some more fees going here. You pay once and that covers everything. If you ever need any guidance, and you will need guidance over time, you will, because it's just the way meditation practice is. You'll have a meditation that will be blissful for 5 or 10 years, and all of a sudden you'll hit a roadblock. You'll hit a stress. And you'll go to sit down and meditate, and you won't be able to meditate. Like, what the heck is going on here? I had great meditations up to this point, and all of a sudden there's like something in the way here. And that's when it's important to give us a call and say, okay, I need a TM check. And you can do these TM checks either here in Doylestown or anywhere there's a TM center. New York City, California. We had a student that took our course, and she was transferred over to France, and she was so excited about it until she got there and didn't know a soul and didn't know how to meet anybody. And so we put her in touch with people that she could meet people, and she now is doing well because she has a little group of friends. Okay. The third requirement is called our 15-day requirement. That is, if anyone has been involved in using any non-prescribed drugs, recreational drugs, such as marijuana, hashish, cocaine, heroin, anything that falls into the category of recreational, that you refrain from using those drugs 15 days prior to your day of instruction. You must stop using the drugs 15 full days, not 14 days. It's got to be 15. The drugs leave a residue on the system. It takes 15 full days to get it out of your system. We want your experience to be clear. We want you to know what you're getting into, and it must have that 15 full day requirement. Okay, that's pretty much it. Oh, you know what? Let's just go over this just in case there's nurses here. can receive 23 contact hours from taking our course. Any nurses in here, by the way? Okay, well, a nurse has to, every year, get these contact hours, usually 30. And they have to, like, if they work in ICU, they have to go down to emergency, or they have to go to maternity. And they have to just stand over them and watch what they do. They don't get paid, but they have to stand there for like 8 hours one day, 8 hours another day, you know, until they get up to these 30 credits that they need. Well, the American Holistic Nurses Association said, we know TM is self-care, and these nurses need self-care. If they take the course, they're going to get 23 of these credits right out of the way. And then the next one is social workers get 13 credits, massage therapists, yoga teachers, midwives, they get 13 credits too. Okay, and that's it. And you can go back up. Any questions about anything? All right. All right, you're welcome. If you're interested, you can go. Yeah, sure.
The mantra that you give, does that stick with a person for life?
That's a really good question. Yeah. Usually it sticks for life. We do have situations where people take our course and they want to further their development. They want to become a TM teacher, basically, okay? So they go away and they get advanced techniques. It's like a fertilizer. And sometimes the mantra stays, sometimes it doesn't. It depends on the person. But usually, the general public, 99% of the people, the mantra that you're given on your day of instruction, you keep it. Unless you want to become a TM teacher later.
What is the mantra? Is that something you think of just when you get started?
It's a sound. It's the sound that's given to you on the first day of instruction. And it's the sound that allows your mind to settle down and be quiet and go to those deeper inner parts of your mind, basically. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you a question. You said like marijuana and all that stuff. What if you take like, I take anxiety medicine, so is that something you have to come off of?
No. You stick with your anxiety. Anything at all that's prescribed by a doctor, you must stay on the drug.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, once you start meditating, you will find that you won't need that as much. So you would have to be your own advocate. And you would have to go into your doctor's office and say, you know, I'm feeling a little bit better. I know that, you know, one lady said to us that she used to get incredible anxiety every time she saw her family. She was a single girl, and everybody else in her family was married and had kids and the whole bit, fell into that right. And she just never wanted to marry, never had any interest in it. But every time she went to the family functions, Trisha, what happened to that last guy? He's gone. What happened to him, you know? And she would just feel horrible. Like her family would make her feel horrible. And so she would really well up with incredible amounts of anxiety. And she said, you know what I did, Carole? I meditated in my car before I went in to see everybody. She says, I love certain people. I love my grandmom and I love certain aunts, but then they're just downright mean. You know, they're just downright mean, and they just made my life miserable. And she says, I found that I could just brush it off, you know, from doing that. So we tell you to work with your doctor. When you start to feel better, when you start to notice that you're waking up and, gee, I'm feeling so much better, I don't need this medication, then that's when you start working with them. And you come off of it with a grain of salt. You really do. A good doctor is going to take you off that medicine very slowly, very, very easily, so that there's no jarring experience that you could have.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I have a question.
Yeah.
And so does any two people have the same mantra?
Some do. Yeah, there's not like 20 billion mantras. We wouldn't be able to remember that. So there's different categories. That's a great question too. Different categories that you would fill. And when you fill out the questionnaire, that's how we select the mantras.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a sound that you have to like replicate yourself?
Yes. A sound that you say mentally.
You say it mentally?
Yeah.
Okay, so you don't
yeah.
actually say the sounds in the
Initially you do, so that we know you're saying it correctly.
Okay, so
But
it's part of the
over time, it's always just a mental technique. And you know, it's the sound that your brain becomes used to. You know, people have said that, you know, I have this $20,000 Rolex watch, and if somebody said, give me your TM technique or give me your Rolex watch, I'd say, here's the watch, take the watch. You're not going to take my TM technique. But, you know, it is something that you start and you have it for life. You have this, nobody could ever take it from you, no matter how bad things get. You always have this technique under your belt. You can always plan on, you know, going to that place. We have a lot of students that take our course that are college students, and, you know, the stress with the exams, and then, good Lord, finding the job after is incredible amounts of anxieties for students coming into the world now. And we always say to them, meditate out in the parking lot before you even go in. You know, before you even go in for that interview, sit down, center yourself, get yourself to a good place, and then start, you know, and then go in for your interview. And they've all called us and said, that was the best advice ever. You know, because it does. It really helps with those. Everybody's got stress. We even have stress. I mean, it's not like, well, we don't have stress. We certainly do too. But you know, you can turn it off for a few minutes. You can turn it off. You can go to a quiet place. You don't need any attachments. You don't need any sounds. You don't need a TV. You don't need any of that. It's all here, right here. You've learned it right from the start. You know the technique, and it goes there. You go there quietly. We have over 11 million people in our database, not Joe and I. We've taught about 10,000 people, though, how to meditate successfully. But worldwide, we have over 11 million people that we know are meditating because they correspond with us. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. Thank you for having me.